dead or grave. And a clean person shall sprinkle upon the unclean the third day. And on the seventh day shall he purify himself, wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and shall be clean at even. So, with this red heifer, if they touch the dead body, you sprinkle the dead body, you sprinkle, let's see, they would take the actions of using a certain kind of uncleanness touching their body. In this case, they take the running water, should be put upon a vessel, and clean person should take hyssop and dip it in water and sprinkle it upon the tent. So you sprinkle this upon the tent, and upon the vessel, and upon the person that was there, and upon him that touches the one slain or one dead or grave. And the person should sprinkle upon the unclean the third day and the seventh day, and on the seventh day he purify. So this went on for about a week. So every few days there's different things done to purify the person from touching someone that was dead or slain, or the bone of a person, or the grave. And this is for purification purposes, and you're supposed to wash and bathe and wash his clothes. The ceremony was from purification from sin. This is different. So this was for touching a dead birth, for touching a dead, in case it was like a relative or you had to bury somebody. This was the ritual. This was what would have to be done with the red heifer. But now this ceremony was the purification from sin. This is different from touching a dead person. Notice the red heifer was killed outside the camp, and the ritual did require a priest to officiate, but only a clean person. This offering provision for cleansing the veil, not only for the children of Israel, also for the stranger. This was for the purification from sin. It shall be unto the children of Israel, unto the stranger among them, for a statute forever. Verse 10. Sanctuary service, page 155 to 157, which goes in greater detail. Read it when you can. Here's a quiz. Here we go now. Question number one. Sin and sin offerings are different translation of the same Hebrew word, chathat. Sin offering closely connected to sin of one Hebrew word denoted both. True or false? What do you think? True or false? Who says true? Raise your hand. Who says false? Raise your hand. The answer is true. Question number two. In the other two cases, with those a ruler, one of the congregation, the blood was not to be carried into the sanctuary, but the priest took out the blood with his finger, dipped it upon the altar of incense. Let's look at that one too. Okay, let's look at this again. Question number two. In the other two cases, those of the ruler and one of the congregation, the blood was not to be carried into the sanctuary, but the priest took the blood and dipped his finger and put upon the altar of incense. True or false? Who says true? Who says false? The answer is the congregation sinned, they were sprinkled, dip his blood and sprinkle the blood before the Lord and reveal the sanctuary. That was going to be see what happens to the ruler. The congregation sinned, sprinkle upon the veil of the horns of the altar with the blood. So that was true. Okay. So number two, the answer is true. Question number three. In none of the four cases was the flesh used in any administration of the altar, while the fat of all the animals were used in service was removed from the body and burned upon the altar for sweet incense, sweet saving to the Lord. Leviticus 4 verse 8, 19, 26, 31, 35. The flesh either was burnt without the camp or eaten by the priest. Verse 12, 21, 6, 26, 29. True or false? Who says true? Who says false? The answer is true. Aaron and his sons had made a mistake of not eating the flesh of the sin offering. When a goat was offered, the blood was put upon the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and the flesh was to be eaten. In this case, they admitted eating the flesh. This made them most angry. True or false? Is this true or is this false? Who says true? Who says false? The answer is true. The ceremony of the red heifer deserves special consideration, and it differed in many respects from the regular sin offering. It served the same purpose. Numbers 19 says it was a sacrifice for sin. True or false? And the answer is false. It was made actually for purification. It was not for sin. It was a sacrifice for purification, purification process. So whether someone touched a dead carcass or they bury somebody, they're supposed to be purified from that. So for purification process, not for sin offering. For sacrifice for sin. Adult quiz. Here we go. It should be also noted, question number 1. It should also know that though there were no provision in daily ritual for conscience or willful sin that was done by a high hand, the service of the Day of Atonement provided for such transgressions. True or false? The answer is true. Day of Atonement. There was no provision for deliberate sins. But if the sin was confessed before the Day of Atonement, willful sins, that sin was supposed to transfer from that person to sanctuary, from sanctuary to the scapegoat. From the foregoing we summarize the use of the blood offering, the blood and sin offerings as follows in the first 2 cases. Those of the anointed priest and the whole congregation, the administration of the blood was alike. It was to take in the first apartment of the sanctuary and sprinkle 3 times before the veil and place upon the horns of the altar of incense. True or false? The answer is false. Sprinkle it 7 times before the veil. Question number 3. It was left to the judgment of the priest to choose which one of 2 ways to do. He was specifically commanded to bring the blood into sanctuary in the case of the anointed priest and the whole congregation, and the other 2 cases he used to carry the blood into the holy place and put upon the horns of the altar of incense to eat the flesh. True or false? Who says true? Who says false? The answer is false. The priest had he couldn't choose which way to do it. It depended upon the situation. Now, if the ruler, or if a ruler sinned, he had to bring in his ox or his bullock and have that confessing upon that, and then they slit the throat of that animal, catch the blood. But if they caught the blood, they could not and put it upon the horns of the altar of incense. They were not allowed to eat the flesh. So either or, you cannot put blood on the horns of the altar and eat the flesh. You either put blood on the horns of the altar or eat the flesh. Depending on the situation, and the priest could not choose which way he was supposed to go. It depends on the situation and the conditions for the sacrifice. So question number 4. So that was false. Number 3 is false. Number 4, if sin cannot be transferred, then Christ of course cannot and does not bear sins. And if he cannot and does not bear sins, we are without hope. That's true. If sins cannot be transferred. But sin is transferred. So that's a true statement right there. And we are with hope because Christ is the one that bore our sin on the cross. And all of our sins now that are over the years have been